Okay, now we're back here on Overtime, and let's get the questions from the internet. For Andrew Sorkin, do you think we would have as many economic problems if we had just nationalized the banks? Ooh, now there's some socialism.
We nationalized the banks.
Some people were for it at the time, remember?
Yeah, no, if we had nationalized the banks, I think we would have had as many problems, if not more. Ultimately, maybe in the short term, we would have had less problems, but look at the amount of debt we have now. And look at what it would have cost, ultimately, to nationalize the banks. I think we probably would have had, today we'd probably be in a better place, but I'm thinking long term, we would have had a disaster on our hands.
And I can't imagine a country that wouldn't allow a public option. Would nationalize the banks. I mean...
But by the way, we've already, our banks are so big and so too big to fail, we've de facto nationalized them anyway.
Nice, I like that.
Thank you. It's true, though. We've nationalized them anyway, even though we pretend we haven't.
All right. Paul Begala, for those who don't know, please explain your Gilligan's Island analogy of the Romney versus Obama debate.
Yeah, I did. I did a column for Newsweek where I said, now we're down to Thurston Howell III versus the professor. Which is what it is, and who's going to get us off the island?
I would go with the professor.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was, you know, he almost had that plane working. Remember, they built out of straw. Charles Murray, hasn't the universal reward system of every child getting a gold star every day in order to instill self-worth resulted in a false sense of self-importance that has negatively affected our society? Well, I was on that page 20 years ago. We can agree on that, right?
I mean, that, you know, the self-esteem thing.
Did we give you a short chair? You look shorter there.
I'm not that tall. Yeah. Raise him up a little bit.
Did we give you a bad chair? It's not fair.
You know,
I
thought there was some symbolism there.
No,
Now, the self-esteem movement's pretty much down the tubes among people who look at this. I mean, we know for a fact that we have kids who have the highest self-esteem in such things as their math ability and the lowest math scores. Right. Whereas, you know, the Koreans have terrible self-esteem with regard to their math, but they get really high scores.
Right, and we were talking about college before on the panel. I think in 1960, something like 15% of kids earned an A in private colleges, and now it's something like 43%.
Yeah, and I know of, there's one professor at Harvard, Harvey Mansfield, who now gives 2 grades, the real grade, and then the grade he puts in a transcript, because if you show up with a B, you aren't going to get into Yale Law School or something. It's ridiculous.
Right. It looks like we're just, like a college diploma is just a consumer product that you can buy.
Something we can agree on, Bill. I think the BA is the work of the devil.
Okay. S.E. CUPP, do you believe the Republican budget meets moral criteria? Ooh, there's a broad question.
I think it attempts to, and actually Paul Ryan talks about this a lot just in little-known circles. He wrote a great essay for a publication called Our Sunday Visitor. It's a Catholic publication, in which he talks about economic decisions having moral consequences and then moral decisions having economic consequences. And I think that's something that Republicans especially need to point out more than they do. The rhetoric goes that you're either a fiscal conservative or a social conservative, and the two don't often meet. And I think conservatives need to point out that you can exist as both, and in fact, we have to exist at both. We can't eliminate or ignore one or the other
Why
side.
did he throw Ayn Rand under the bus?
Who?
Paul Ryan.
What do you mean?
Today, George.
Today. Threw him, you know, he used to say, but this is why I'm in politics. I hand out the book to everyone who works for me. Right. Ayn Rand, you know. Now he's throwing her under the bus.
Oh, I don't know why. As an atheist? Because she's an atheist? Or why?
No, I just think the winds are shifting. I think
He was getting, he went to Georgetown, a Catholic school, and a lot on Catholics were protesting.
I saw that.
Right, and so part of what they were protesting is that he has said that he bases a lot of his philosophy on Rand, and so today he disavowed her and said no, because and he cited her atheism particularly.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine.
But it didn't bother him all the years before.
No, because he liked the part where she said...
I'm sure he likes her politics.
He likes her fuck everybody policy, just not her atheism. Okay.
Right.
That's...
Paul, someone asked, Black Knight asked, why do the Democrats always seem to lose the message war?
That's a good point. I think because my definition...
Not always.
Not always, but very often we're afraid to take our own side in a fight. You know, we sit there and think, oh, you have such a good point, and, you know, look, that's why I like coming on your show, because you don't do that. I don't do that. I actually believe in these things, and I want to fight for them. But that's a very good point.
Maybe too much nuance. What do you think about too much nuance?
Too much nuance. I'm not
yeah.
comfortable with
Democrats always
nuance.
nuanced.
Yeah.
Republicans never nuanced.
Right.
It's true.
That's-
And so, look,
that's what I
sometimes you're
love
dealing
ab-
with fundamental truths.
But
and
that's what I love
Republicans
about, and I wanted to ask this on the show tonight, but we were running out of time. That's what I love about Joe Biden saying, as a motto for the Democrats running in this election, GM is alive and bin Laden is dead, and pointing out that if the situation was reversed, because we have the quotes from Mitt Romney saying he would not have gone into sovereign Pakistan to go after bin Laden, and we know what he said about GM. That's on record too. So if Mitt Romney was president, actually it would be the reverse. GM would be dead and bin Laden would be alive. You think that's true? You think that's true, lady? Lady! What? You look...
I cannot defend him on that. I can't. I didn't defend him on
Right.
the car thing. I didn't defend him. I can't and I will not.
All right. S. Proctor asks, in light of the recent Secret Service sex scandal, isn't it time for the country to have a serious debate about legalizing prostitution?
There's always one of those,
At
right?
least outside of the country.
What's that?
I said at least outside of the country.
I thought that was already.
I thought it was already legal.
It was.
It was.
And you know what? I must say, kudos to the Colombian police or whoever when the hooker went to them
Yes.
and said, you know, this guy's trying to gyp me, and you know that looks bad. I mean, 800. Well, it does. I mean,
80 down to 800 down to 30.
30. I mean, that's just
What an
wrong.
asshole.
Just
What an
cheap.
asshole. It's so true. What an asshole. We can all agree, Democrat, Republican, Independent.
Hey,
what an asshole. Yeah.
Maybe he's just a fiscal conservative.
But
I'm not going to pay a lot of money for that.
for that muff,
Thank you.
I'm not going to pay a lot of money for that muff. No, but in a lot of countries, if a hooker came to the police station and said, I've been robbed, they would get out of here, you know, and they treated her with
Protected her.
dignity. This is
Yes.
your job, and you know,
Well,
better.
she said she's not, you know, she's an escort. She is like a fine rum.
Oh, she's fine. We saw the picture.
You cannot treat her like some common
That's right.
$10.
Oh, no, you didn't. And that's all the questions I have.
Thank
Thank you
God.
very much, everybody. Thank you, panel. And we'll see you next week.
Real Time with Bill Maher. Ask Bill and his guests your questions right after the show at HBO.com.